The views and opinions expressed in this podcast by the host and or the guest do not necessarily reflect the views of the host and or Paranormal Buzz Radio and or its sponsors. Use of any material produced by Paranormal Buzz Radio without express written consent is prohibited. Paranormal Buzz Radio will not be held responsible for you holding your knees, crying, and rocking in a corner in a puddle of your own urine, or being beheaded by a group of children in a cornfield. In fact, if you come across a group of children in a cornfield, we promise to make fun of you as you run away screaming in terror. Listener discretion is advised.
The Cryptid Files is a weekly discussion and debate covering all things cryptid. Mysterious and terrifying creatures are our passion. Join us each week as we bring you groundbreaking interviews and accounts, info from research in the field, as well as data and experiences of our own. From the widely known cryptids to the most strange and obscure, we want to believe. Do you?
I think Bigfoot is an animal that we already know from the fossil record. It's a fair presumption that this was an erect bipedal animal, standing perhaps 8 feet tall, weighing about 800 pounds, and being presumably covered with hair. And this, of course, is an exact description of the living Sasquatch.
911, what are you reporting?
We got something crawling around out here.
Did you see what it was? Was it a person or an animal?
I can't tell.
He's known to rip people apart if he gets chopped. What do you think they ought to do about him?
Kill him. He might hurt somebody.
It was walking very much like a human.
What's going on now, sir?
Son of a is about 6'9", I don't know.
Do you see him now, sir?
Yes, I'm looking right at him. Get somebody out here.
And welcome to the Cryptid Files. I'm John.
I'm Cindy, and we are your hosts for the show.
And today we are going to be talking about the infamous hide-and-seek champion of the world, Sasquatch, or also known as Bigfoot.
Oh, you guys know that this is my favorite subject.
But tonight I got a new friend, one that I didn't have to pay for. He is joining us from the land of Instagram. His name is Rick Rellis. He is a BFRO investigator, currently living in Western North Carolina. Rick is recently retired over 30 years of a professional business life where he traveled the world frequently. In 2010, while driving across the northern Wisconsin with other business associates, they saw a Sasquatch cross the road ahead of the vehicle. This began his interest and research journey into the Bigfoot world. He has attended and led dozens of expeditions in the U.S., Canada, and speaks at conferences also on the subject of Bigfoot and paranormal occurrences. His field guide to Bigfoot stick structures is in the 3rd edition. Rick is also a partner in I Know Squatch, a Wisconsin LLC that sells leading-edge Sasquatch-related merchandise. He is active in research and will be at numerous Sasquatch and cryptozoology events in 2020. So I'd like everybody to welcome Rick Rellis. How we doing, Rick?
Good. Very good, John. Thank you for that intro.
Awesome.
Oh, awesome. We are excited to have you. This is the reason we really started this show was Bigfoot. So it's my favorite subject. I think I'm going to drive John crazy if I talk about it anymore.
Yeah.
I like talking about it.
Excellent.
Right. Well, she not only does she drive me crazy talking about it, but she drives me out into the middle of nowhere to walk around and look for Sasquatch
At night.
Yeah, at night.
Yes, we do.
Where do you guys go?
Oh my gosh. Well, see, You're western North Carolina.
Right.
So we're stationed in Blue Ridge, Georgia. And yes, so we are out we have different areas. We've got like area 1, 2, 3, and 4. We don't really give away our location, but we're out in these mountains. So that's where we're doing our current research, a lot of it. And it's an interesting area. I'll put it that way.
I've done a lot of Sasquatch research in northern Georgia in the last 3 years.
It's a hotbed. I don't think a lot of people know that. And of course, you've been to the museum, I'm assuming. Oh, yes.
Dave and Melinda very well.
As do we. We do too. I'm going to bug them to death, I swear. Yeah. I started going to the museum about 3 years ago, I think. And it's my favorite place in the world. And they're great people. They're amazing people, and I talk about them all the time. We actually live maybe 10 minutes away.
Yeah.
Dream come true for me.
Unfortunately.
But that's great. So can you give us a little bit of history about what really got you interested in the cryptid field, and in particular in Sasquatch?
Well, everybody goes back to their childhood, and I will say my dad was always very good at being open-minded when it came to anything paranormal. So whether it was a Bigfoot type of creature or the UFO phenomena, any of that, he and my uncle, they were always talking about those types of things. So I was always aware of it. We'd watch all the monster movies and things together, and I kind of grew up in an open-minded environment for that. And I did a lot of hunting as a kid, small game hunting in the woods, and the whole Boy Scout thing, and hiking and outdoors, and et cetera, camping. And I've always been aware of it, but what really propelled me into it was about 10 years ago, as I said, or you said in the bio. I saw something across the road on a trip across northern Wisconsin that the other business associate I was with kind of put it out of his mind later, said it had to be an elk or something. Well, there's no elk there, but he just, but I started really diving into it and trying to figure out what it was, which led me to the BFRO and their database of reports, and started studying that, and I found some descriptions that were just like what I'd seen. And
wow.
Fast forwarding, I got involved with the BFRO, going on their expeditions. They're great people. I've gotten to know an awful lot of other Bigfoot researchers around the country because of it. I became an investigator in Wisconsin, carried that to Tennessee, where I lived for about 14 months, and I've been here for about a year and a half in Hendersonville, western North Carolina. I help the BFRO running expeditions, do a lot of private things, and I'm in a couple of groups that go on out, do expeditions, and I've had a couple other encounters since. So
wow.
The BFRO always says if you see one and you can clearly tell that it's not a bear, not a human type of thing, that's a Class A encounter, and they categorize these things A, B, and C. Well,
absolutely.
I've had 3 Class A's, and I've had plenty of B's and C's over the years. And if you're doing what you guys say you're doing, which is getting out at night into the woods and research areas, you got a good chance over time.
Absolutely, that's definitely the goal. That's amazing. That's what we aspire to. Just the fact that you had that sighting in the road, which is a classic sighting. It's when you see these things, when you actually see it, what goes through your head when you're looking at this, that it's not your run-of-the-mill animal. I mean, especially if you're pretty familiar with the woods. What ran through your mind when you saw this? Can you go into a little bit of detail about the sighting itself?
Yeah, I would say the first time I saw one of these things cross, it was crossing the road right late in the day, November. I was not looking for it, couldn't figure out what it was. It was a auburn, brownish red type creature, huge. Looked like it was running bipedal, which I couldn't fathom at the time. And there was a fence down in the ravine off the road on the right, and it hurdled that thing like a Olympic hurdler.
Wow.
So I was having a hard time processing. Years later, as I got more involved in this and got out in the woods and had experiences, the next time I saw one of these was in August of 2016, and I was on an expedition in northwest Colorado, and 5 people were in a canyon, and I saw one, and actually I had somebody that saw that one also with me. So each time that I've seen one of these things, someone else saw one with me. So that's always good. That's kind of fulfilling.
Yeah, you kind of want that to happen.
You do. You
Yeah.
really do. And but the second time, well, the group was looking down trail to the right. Myself and another person group, she and I turned and looked back, and it's classic. One of the Bigfoot. They were all around as we knew it, but one had gotten out on the trail, and it started to look like a second baseman or a shortstop rocking side to side. Like I've been seen. And to tell you, Cindy, what goes to your head then, you know what you're seeing because you've done the research. You've gotten other evidence, whether it be footprints or audio, where you've recorded them. You've seen the evidence they leave in the woods. You've been in their presence. But when it's there, and when we went back later and measured distance, it was about 90 feet. When you see one there,
wow.
You're looking right at it, and it's looking at you. It's adrenaline, but it's amazement too. You walk away from that for days saying, "Well, there's a lot more to the world than I knew before." The third one that I saw, again, I was with 5 people. 3 of us saw it, but it was a big adult male, we believe, and it was coming down a ravine and crossed a ravine above us. We were on the side of a hill, and that was in spring of 2018 in Western Virginia, not West Virginia, in Western Virginia. And the thing that struck me about that one was how big and how powerful it was. And I always judge, how do you feel about the next day? The next day, all that was running through my head was, oh my God, that thing was huge. And it had to be 9 foot tall, black, powerful, and it was moving like a running back, going through the line and football.
Yeah, wow.
That's unbelievable.
Powerful. Yeah, so amazement. To answer your question, it's a long answer, but amazement. Power, the speed. It's just things that these things can do that we can't. That's striking.
Yeah, that's and that's so indicative of so many reports that I've researched. And in fact, a few months ago, we were out in a certain area that was not far from where we were today, actually, and we had stopped because my daughter, who is 18, was in the back seat, and it's pretty far out where we were at, and she just yells stop, and she gets out of the car and takes off. And so I immediately get out and take off because she said, before we stopped, she said, "What is that?" And I knew when she said that, I knew what she meant, and so I took off after her. And it was probably 40, 50 yards. It was down the holler and back up on the ridgeline. There was this big black man-like thing peeking out from around a tree.
Now, if you were to take a tape measure and stand it up and pull out 50 feet up, that's probably about how high up the mountain it was.
Yeah. It was very close, and it took off, and it was just gone. But it was extremely large. She got the better look at it, and I saw just a black blur. But she said that it just looked massive. In fact, she won't go back to that area. She refuses. We went today, and she was like, "No, I can't go."
When they got out of the car, I was still with everybody else. We had just crossed a river. They were probably laughing at us because we got stuck in the first entrance.
We didn't really get
it stalled
stuck.
out. But anyways, after she saw it, it ran, and then all I could see was black just passing through the brush, and it was moving pretty quick.
And this is a pretty steep hill.
This is coming from a guy who doesn't believe it until they see it. So I didn't see it. I just saw the black blur go right through the bush and run, and then it was gone. As soon as I saw it, it was gone.
She got a very good look. She got a pretty good, solid look at it. So that it was just there and gone. Superhuman the way that it moved and as quick as it was. It's amazing. So these things, they have abilities that we can't even fathom, I don't think, yet. I really don't. I don't know. There's something more to them
I think
than...
I lost you guys.
Did you?
Did you?
Yeah, you just drifted off on me, so...
We're still here. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. It drifted off for a minute.
Huh.
Okay.
That's weird.
Odd.
Yeah, now I can hear you fine.
All right,
Okay,
good.
great.
I had an airplane flew over here where I am, maybe.
Who knows? Maybe Bigfoot doesn't want us talking about him.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But
I was hearing you describe what your encounter was, too, and so what are your thoughts now?
I mean, I'm pretty sure I know what she saw. I'm pretty sure. This is something that it's been something that I've researched for a long time, and my kids know a lot, and they know what to look out for when we go out. So I'm pretty confident that she knows what she saw. She cried after the whole thing was over. A few minutes later, she just burst into tears. She's like, that was so big. She just couldn't. It was hard for her to see the size of this thing and to kind of come to terms with it, I think. That was the biggest thing for her. And she's like, I don't want to see it again. So she's like, I'm done with this. So it shook her up. And there are reports all around this area, several actually. So I don't know. I think I know what it was.
Well, to tell you about me, Rick, I'm not a believer. And I don't disbelieve, if that's a word. I'm more of the guy that I have to see it. I have to have that experience before
Losing you again.
I don't know why we're losing you.
I don't know. You still there?
Yeah, I'm here, but you're kicking in and out.
Like-
Are you able to hear me?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me see if I can fix that.
I don't
But-
Is it-
know why. But yeah, I was losing. I think I heard you, John, saying you were maybe a disbeliever or a healthy skeptic.
Yes, he's a healthy skeptic.
Yes, healthy,
We'll put it that
healthy
way.
skeptic.
Yeah.
Yes. So, where was I going? So, yeah. So I got to see it to believe it. I got to have that experience. You know what I mean? Which I think we had an experience not too long ago. We were in one of our areas and we were just sitting there. I had made a homemade parabolic, trying it out, the whole nine, and all of a sudden there was a metal sign probably about 20 feet or so,
Yeah.
maybe 30 feet, and all of a sudden you hear the loudest tink. I was like what the? I mean, the vulgarities that come out of my mouth were something else. It was just it was so loud, and it was
Yes. You've lost us. Yeah, I'm not sure why it's doing this.
yeah. Everybody in chat can hear all of us just fine. I don't know why
You
it
still
keeps
there?
cutting in and out.
No, I
I
don't.
can't hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
we can hear you. Yes, hold
but he
on.
can't hear us.
But he can't hear us.
That's
Your voice drifted off about a
That
minute
is
ago.
weird.
I haven't been able to hear you.
no, we don't like this.
Yeah, let me see if I can fix that.
So you can hear me, but
Yeah, we can-
your
we
voice
can
will be
hear you.
talking and it
Oh, yeah.
drops
Yeah,
off.
we can totally. You can't hear us at all, huh? No, he
Can
can't.
you hear us?
How about now? Nothing. No.
No,
No, it's
No.
breaking up.
I don't know why.
Is it our Wi-Fi?
I don't know. No, it's not showing it. I mean, it would show it if we were breaking up, but we're not. I don't know why.
And I have
I
so
hear
many.
you now.
There you go.
Okay, great.
There you go.
We're gonna-
We're hardwired in, so that way we don't lose you. But
So long story short, we had a few.
There's some kind of interference. The words are
There's
vocals just breaking up.
that's weird.
yeah, I'll see if I can turn a few things down.
But we did have a few rocks thrown at us.
yeah,
so.
we had a few rocks thrown us that hit a sign
Oh.
about
Yeah.
20, 30 feet, and it was the loudest thing I ever heard. And I come out of my
He
skin.
did.
Vulgarities followed. I'm a paranormal investigator. I'm used to investigating inside of a house. You know what I mean? So being out in the woods and doing this kind of stuff is different. But I am an avid hunter, so I'm used to being in the woods. So when something hits a metal sign that loud, I mean...
But it
what am I going to do?
It followed. There were, beforehand, he didn't hear them, but there were 2 good tree knocks.
I didn't hear
that
them.
were off in the distance as well.
They didn't happen.
So this is an interesting area, and it's really close to where a highway sighting was. So it's pretty cool. I don't know. We're gonna keep digging around in there and see what we can find, though.
Oh,
because you never know.
Well, there's a lot of activity in the Chattahoochee National Forest.
Oh, yeah.
That's where we were.
A lot of right, and and the WMAs that go across there's you can name them one after another. I've been in a bunch of them, and there's activity. There's a lot of it all throughout there. If you get northwest of Helen, there's activity. Up towards Clayton, there's a number of WMAs up there I've been in. Some of the ones north of Suchis.
Yes, that's actually where we were at.
Yes.
Where you're speaking of, we were in that general area. We were at the WMA that is right there. We were kind of going up a mountain over there. So that's kind of our area. So I have a question. What do you, when you're going to investigate an area, what are some of the things that you look for to decide whether this is a good area to do research?
Number one, I mean, the nice thing about BFRO is you got a database, so we'll look at reports in the area. And historical reports are important, but if you've got some recently in the last 3 to 5 years, that's good. You want to see if they're increasing or if they're gathering. Sasquatch are social group creatures. They're not stationary, although I do think they'll come back to the same places. They do move around a bit. So if you can find sort of an area where they are, it's a good place to scout. And then you got to go do some scouting, and you got to look at the area. We do research at night, so you got to have some kind of camping that you can come back to. But then you want to look for signs or evidence, and you do daytime scouting. You want to get into areas where like I said, where there are WMAs are great. If you can get into an area where there's wildlife and there's abundant food sources, they follow the rivers, they follow the streams. They'll walk those and be around those. I sort of believe that they raise their kids in swamp areas. There's a lot to eat there. They're omnivores, so if they have a lot of food or food sources, and then they need some shelter. So whether it be caves or rock outcroppings or areas they can have some shelter or house themselves. They store food and things. So you got to find an area where they can do that. And then as far as a good place to do research, daytime or at night, you got to put yourself in a vulnerable position. So because you're not going to go to they're going to come to you.
Yeah.
But if you can get yourself in a position and not act like a hunter, act like a hiker, and you're comfortable and they'll come to you. And so we look for areas that start with reports, and then we'll harbor these things where they can, raise their young, and there's plentiful food sources. And waterways are very important. But they're omnivores, they're opportunistic eaters, they'll eat all kinds of things. But if you can look for signs of food in an area, it's a good chance they could be there. And then they do blaze some of their own trails, but the nice thing about trails that humans put all through different areas, parks, state parks, national parks, and things, is they'll walk those at night. They'll use those.
Absolutely, path of least resistance. Yeah.
No question.
Yep.
So I have a question. What don't you do when you go look for the big fella?
So that's a great question, and I've done lots of podcasts and things and spoken in front of groups, and no one's ever asked me that, so you win the prize, John. So
awesome.
I'll tell you one thing you don't do. I love the show, and all those guys in Finding Bigfoot are great, and I've bet it shows with Bobo and Cliff, and all those guys are great. They're great. They're great guys. I love them. But I've had this discussion with Cliff a few times too. What you don't do is go out in the woods and start blasting whale sounds as loud as you can. You don't get yourself on an area where there's activity or they've been and start banging on and making the loudest knocks you can like it's an Olympic sport. You don't, bang on, crash on stuff out there and irritate them. If I'm them, I'm just going to turn and go the other way. First of all, I mean, you're not acting like them. You're not showing respect for them.
Right.
And you're not inviting. You want to do things that make you curious. One of the things I do that really works is, play Native American music when you're out there.
Ooh.
They had great luck with that. I play harmonica when I'm out in the woods a lot around them. If you're doing something that's different, let's face it, if you're in an area where they are, it's 2 a.m, and you're comfortable and you're laughing and talking, they're going to come around and say, what are these people doing here in my backyard? And they'll be curious. But if if somebody showed up, John and Cindy, in your living room and start banging and crashing, making noise, playing loud rock music and making loud howls, you'd kick them out. You're not, that's not.
Oh,
polite.
yeah.
And so I don't do a lot of that.
Well, that is actually my philosophy. So I'm excited that you agree with that because I've been saying these things.
Listen, I have a team in Massachusetts. I love them dearly. Don't get this twisted. All right, Unexplained Paranormal Massachusetts is one of my other teams, and I'm sorry, Dave, if you're listening. I told you so.
Now, see, one of my favorite things to do, and I think that this is a good thing, is make coffee. That's what I do because I really feel like Bigfoot would like
getting
coffee.
the smell, the aroma in the air might draw them in. I mean, they're I don't like to call them animals, and I don't like to call them human, but these creatures will probably be curious of the smell.
Yeah.
Hey, man, that stuff smells great.
And, my philosophy is go in, stay calm, be open, have fun, laugh, just have a good time. And I've said it from the get, like act like campers, act like hikers.
Yep.
Do what we do, and that's what we do.
We were camping just a few weeks ago, and I had the kids, Cindy, myself, the dog. But when I was standing there and they were doing what they were doing, we were just keeping the fire going, playing with a spirit box to see if we could get any paranormal activity, just minding our own business. All of a sudden, I got that feeling I can't stand right there. I can stand over there or over there, but not right there.
Yeah.
Why is that? Well, why is that when people have these kinds of encounters, they get the hair on the back of their neck, the goosebumps, the feeling of being watched, or they're going to be grabbed any second?
Well, so I've had that feeling many times with them, and I'll answer you. You said why? I'll tell you what I think. So they have you talk about infrasound. You've heard that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, and they have, big cats can do it, elephants can do it, etc. So there's a theory. I guess it's proven because we pick it up, you record it, and see where it is on the chart, but that they'll generate this, low frequency hum type of noise, which unnerves you, and they use it to, immobilize prey. So especially deer, it's opportunistic for them. If they have this ability, there has to be a practical use for it,
right?
Not just to make you, John, feel creepy around the fire while the kids are playing. So but they'll do that. They'll implement it. If anything that gets attention away from them and keeps them stealth they'll do. So you got to always remember that. If you get that, but you got to pay attention to your feelings. If you get that feeling, something's going on. Hair's up in the back of your neck.
Oh yeah.
I had it last Saturday night in an area in north central Tennessee that I was out doing some research on, and I've had it where it's a mild, we call it zapping, but
yes,
I've had it where it feels like a mild uneasiness or apprehension. I've had it where it feels like a wave just came over you. I've had it directionally where it felt like it was pinpoint.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, definitely.
Going through your shoulder. I had it once a few years ago, and I was with another investigator guy from Minneapolis, and we were with 3 other people, and he got it first, and we were walking, and it was like there was a woman in the group. She didn't get it, but the men all walked into it. It was like hitting a wall of electricity, and literally it felt like electrical current going through my upper body.
I mean,
So
that's exactly what happened, because the ladies and the children, the dog didn't even get affected. It was every time I stepped on that side of the fire, nope, it wasn't going to happen. And I would move away. I'd feel comfortable again. I'd go back to that spot and start chopping wood with a knife. And nope, get up, move away. I'm not really afraid of a lot. I'm really not. But dude, I could not stand or sit there. No way.
It was interesting.
Yeah.
But it gets more interesting though. So
so let me ask you a question just about it quick, but I want to hear. So in the group that was there, John, were you the tallest person?
Yeah, if you're going to say alpha, yes. I was alpha.
Yeah. Okay, because
the biggest,
often
the tallest.
The alpha person in the group will get the zap or the
awesome.
Because they'll always feel like, well, if they zap the tallest person, that person is uneasy. It must be the leader, and then they'll take everybody away. But they do that all the time directionally.
So what do you think would have happened if I didn't move? I stood my ground.
I think they would have turned the volume up on the apprehension. So you probably could have gone to like a next level of zapping, or felt even dizzy or uneasy. You might have felt like a weight on your shoulders pushing you down. It goes to that next level. That's what people report. I can tell you from experience. I've been through all the different levels of this, and it gets heavier and gets uneasy. Like you don't feel like you can move. If you go to the next level, it can be almost crippling, like knock you down. Fight or flight takes over. You feel sick to your stomach.
I already had that. I already had the fight or flight.
Yeah, I've had this sick to my stomach, and I couldn't walk very well at Blue Hole Falls.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it really messed me up. But we were, during this moment when we were running a spirit box that night.
Oh, yeah. I have another question. Yes.
This is the interesting part. So we were running the spirit box because it's brand new, and you're not going to not take your spirit box with you in the woods, So we're running it, and I'm just like, because I'm always thinking about Bigfoot. I'm always like, I'm going to try something.
Well, she originally says, can I try something? I'm like, sure, I'm all about experimenting. Go right ahead. And she starts with, go ahead.
I'm like, and we were getting a little bit of response. I'm like, if you're here, have you seen the big hairy man here, to a spirit or whatever? And it said, and I was like, are you the big hairy man? And it said, me.
So,
and I was like, okay.
This brings me to my question, because I'm always thinking I like to build things. I'm always engineering and de-engineering, if that's the word, re-engineering things. Now, we know that Bigfoot can communicate higher or lower than what the human ears can hear, correct? Frequency-wise.
As far as hearing.
Now, you may know where I'm going with this. What's to say that we couldn't pick up some sort of transmission on a radio? I know they're not made out of electronics and they can't commute. They're not a transmitter in that sense. But what's to say we couldn't?
Nothing. So I'm fascinated with the spirit box, and you're using that. Familiar with that technology? You're seeing it a lot on all the ghost hunting shows now. They're using it. I have not purchased one of those or brought it with me. We do a lot of recording. I've had good luck with LED motion sensors out in the woods and areas, and they'll trip those things off. I'll tell you about a story of twice in the past month. I've been in an old hillbilly cemetery with motion sensors and had a really good time. Actually, I'll have to tell you about that. But a spirit box picking up maybe their transmission from one to another, or picking up something that they may be audibleizing. That's fascinating.
I mean, you just have to kind of go down every avenue. I was thinking, the possibility is there.
What about when we were using the spirit box, right? And we
Yeah.
kept getting that dolphin sound, clicking sound.
We did.
Seriously,
Like a dolphin.
like I can't even imitate it.
No.
I need like a teenager to come in here and do it for me because their voice will crack. But it was that clicking
never
sound.
heard
I
it,
can't
and-
even imitate
yeah.
it. It sounded like a dolphin. We kept getting it.
And
I-
then we got me. And
yeah, it was strange because
Interesting.
she had me thinking, because I'm just that type of guy. I'm always thinking, and I was like, wait a minute, she's probably onto something, because all of a sudden I've been on CB radios all my life. I know what atmospheric sounds sound like, and I've never heard that before. It very well could have been what it was, but it sounded like a freaking dolphin, man.
Who knows? Okay,
so when you say that, so I just want to jump. So you're saying this sound like Flipper used to make, kind of
Yes.
like
Like
electronically
clicking, real rapid clicking.
but dolphin clicking. Yes,
Yeah.
it did.
like that chittering. type
Yes.
sound.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like snapping really quick or cracking your knuckles really fast.
And it was rhythmic and repeated.
Yeah, it did repeat only 3 times.
But it was during the time when we
Yeah.
heard when we got the responses from
Yeah,
Bigfoot.
whatever.
So
Yeah. Were you able to hear that yourself, or did it come
Yes.
through the spirit box?
it came through the
It
spirit
came
box.
through the spirit box.
But we did hear something audible, and I'm not sure what
Right.
it was. We couldn't pinpoint exactly what it was, but
Well, so I can give you a couple of, just thinking out loud, a couple of possibilities here. One is
Okay.
these things are fantastic mimics. So
Yeah.
they can mimic things, and I think they're fascinated at doing it too. They hear noises, they repeat them, they use them to deflect, to confuse humans, so they'll go the other way in a trail, all that kind of thing. They do use these things. They do use that ability a lot. And I mean, I've heard everything from car alarms to circular saws to I've heard voices, I've heard babies crying, I've heard car doors opening, closing. I've heard the crackle of plastic water bottles. As they hear that, they hear people crackling those while they're walking. Well, they can mimic that sound and do it. So I've heard all that type, animal sounds, donkeys, all out of place, that sort of thing. So don't put it beyond that.
Right.
Secondly, they in recording these things, a lot of times over the years, I've gotten crazy electrical interference and crazy kinds of sounds when they're around, and it's legendary that the batteries will go out on things. I've had headlamps go out, recorders go out, GoPro cameras go out, around them. It's almost like they draw the energy out of things, similar to like an apparition or a ghost will do, a ghost energy, spirit energy. They'll draw on that and use that. I've had walkie-talkies just go crazy when I'm talking to those groups.
Yep.
So they do participate in the electrical interference game, similar to spirits.
So there kind of goes my hypotheses about the spirit box then. Why not? Why could they not? If they can do that to other electronic equipment, why couldn't they affect a spirit box?
and why did we record a saw sound
Yes,
in the middle of the woods?
I don't have the sound with me, Rick. I'm actually going to I work in a sawmill. That's my job. And when I heard this recording, I went to my boss and I said, hey, is there another sawmill down the street? And he goes, no, we're the only one here. So I'm like, okay, that doesn't make any sense. So it's funny that you say that. I actually have a recording that starts off what sounds like one of our re-edgers at work. And then it goes into the First, I was like, "No, that's a fox. That's got to be a fox." And then I just kept listening, and the saw sound just kept going and going It was really weird.
yeah, we've definitely
So that's really weird. So so if you were of the camp that, I'll give you a couple answers here just to make the discussion wild, but if you were of the camp that these things are just a relic hominid or a primate, an ape that walks in the woods, you'd say, well, that noise was nothing that they did. It was some type of bird or something somewhere else. That was not a Bigfoot-related sound. If you're of the camp that these things have the ability to mimic and make different sounds, you'd say, maybe that was a Bigfoot. And in my experience, they probably heard that sound somewhere.
Yeah.
And
about
they
5
were making
miles
it
north from where I heard it.
yeah.
as the bird
Yeah,
flies
maybe.
about 5 miles.
Yeah, they may have heard it around a sawmill and they were just making the noise. Now, if you were in the woo camp, which is where there are people out there that think these things, walk in and out of portals and have every ability of a crypto, otherworldly, other dimensional type being, and I'm not in that camp entirely, but I'm not all the way in the flesh and blood thing. I'm somewhere in the middle now. I think these things have abilities we don't have. But if you were in the woo camp, you'd say, well, they made that sound for you, John, because they knew you work in a sawmill and would relate to it.
The funny thing is,
telepathically read your mind and then did it just to be able to relate to you.
the funny thing is, I hadn't even started the job yet.
It was telling you the future.
Yeah, it probably was. All right.
Yes, I think I'm in the same camp as you, though.
I think
I know they have abilities that are beyond what we can kind of comprehend at this point. But they definitely walk and talk, and they do actually talk and hunt and all those wonderful things. So
I think we're going to take a little break because I need my coffee that's been sitting over there for about 40 minutes.
And then when we come back, we want to hear your story about the graveyard.
Yes, please. All right. All right, everybody, here's some music for you. We'll be back in just about 3 minutes and 49 seconds. And welcome back.
Hello, everybody. We're so excited.
So, Rick, story about the cemetery, buddy.
Yes, we want to hear this story.
You're killing me.
The more that we talk to you, just the more excited I get. In fact, I've made up my mind that when we're done tonight, we're going.
Well, wait, that reminds me. That reminds me. Listen.
Yes.
But before Rick tells his story, Cindy,
Yes.
why don't you tell him about the time you took us out to that cave? And remember what happened when we went out to that cave?
Yes.
Yeah. Good. Why don't we tell the story?
Well, it was weird. We went out to the cave. It's the first time we've been. And it was just John and myself. And we're walking down. And this cave, by the way, is ridiculous. It's the coolest cave ever.
No, it's not.
It's so cool. Don't let him tell you it's not. It is. He just got...
listen, so you know I'm claustrophobic. So she drags me into this tiny little cave.
I coaxed.
And
I didn't drag.
Again, I'm not going to lie. The vulgarities that followed were not nice. I hated every minute of it.
But this is a perfect spot for him to, like, hang out. I mean, tell me I'm wrong.
So we're walking down towards the cave.
Yes.
And we're probably maybe about 100 feet off the cave. Excuse me. And out of nowhere,
up on the ridge that's adjacent to us, like in front of us,
the loudest rapid succession of knocks. I only heard 2.
Oh no, there were 5.
But they were so loud that it's impossible that could have been a woodpecker.
It was not fast enough for a woodpecker either. It was bam, 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 bam.
See, I didn't. Yeah. I only heard the first 2 loud ones.
Anyway, so that's one of our experiences. Yeah, we did.
How many were there? How many of you?
Just 2 of us.
It's normally just me and her when these things happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there were, we were just doing our thing. We weren't even thinking. It's always when we're not thinking about research, which I'm always, but it's when you're going to do something else that something happens.
We were just going to check the cave out.
Yeah. And lo and behold, there it is.
Yep.
But we've got a lot of experiences. We want to hear your graveyard story.
And after that, we're going to tell you another one. But go ahead.
So my comment on the cave thing is you're probably in an area where there's a sentry type of Sasquatch that watches that area. And maybe you kind of arrived there and you didn't see it coming. So when they do a fast or rapid type of knock, they're usually on alert. But they're just alerting the other ones in the area that, you're there as humans. So I would say that was a sentry probably alerting the others.
Awesome.
Wow.
Typically, because they'll do that at a confluence of trails. But when you hear, something in rapid succession or they kind of unveil themselves quickly, they're usually alerting the other ones. Sort of like a blue jay will call everybody out. When you walk into a trail or you go into a forest, blue jay gets above you and tells the whole forest there's people coming.
Same thing
Squirrels,
with I was just going to say that. Going to say that.
Yep.
Squirrels will do the same.
Yep, they'll do the same. But Sasquatch will do that. They all have jobs. They have social order. So, and there's never one of them, by the way. The whole myth that the Sasquatch is this monster in Northern California, one thing, one entity. That's nonsense. There's tons of these things out there, and one of the things I've been, we've been trying to estimate population and figure out where they are and what they do. But I believe they have social groups, social order, and each in the group has a job.
Wow. I bet you their government is better than ours.
Well, I sympathize with the government, not that, because people, I'm not a conspiracy guy, but, I sympathize with the government because if the government was to acknowledge these things, just like, they're already starting to acknowledge UFOs, so you're going to hear more and more of that.
Yeah.
But because there's reasons for that. But if they're to acknowledge the Bigfoot thing and say, and I believe they've got the evidence and know it, but they can't answer all the questions.
Right.
That's hard. So I'm sympathetic with the government. What do? Protect them. They don't have every answer for people to tell everything about it. Maybe some of the answers we don't want to hear.
Right.
What do they do? Tax them? Give them the right to vote? I mean, what do you do?
Exactly. And I've been saying that too. I think the evidence is there, but
yes.
That's a slippery slope. So I think it's actually better kind of left in the dark for a lot of reasons. But, anyway, let's hear your story.
Yeah. So, and if anybody, just back to, I know Squatch and the business that I have there, we sell some merchandise that depicts Bigfoot, and we've got an image of it peeking around a tree, but we'll be I love. We'll be at Gatlinburg at the show that's coming up the end of July, and then we'll be at the Ohio Bigfoot Conference, which is in August, and then in Marion there's a big Bigfoot festival there. And the reason I bring all this up in Marion, North Carolina, over the next few months is people come up to me with stories constantly, and every time I'm there, I have people selling merchandise, and I always have a line of people wanting to talk and see what I think about something. But I think it's fantastic. More people that come and can share stories, the more you can learn about this thing. So I just want to put that out there because
awesome.
Like we're sharing stories here. This is what goes on at these shows, and it's great because I'll always have a sympathetic ear and want to listen. So anyway, but we'll be there with merchandise, and people come on and talk to us, and we can see. One of the things that's fascinating about these, we have a tendency of going places, especially in the South, looking for them back in the woods, and there are old trails and old roads and old two tracks, and there's always hillbilly cemeteries. And I don't know, if you guys do a lot of paranormal research and John ghost research, that sort of thing, you probably spent some time in some of these cemeteries. But I've had some weird stuff happen in these things. I mean, these cemeteries are 1800s type things.
Oh yeah.
And that yet they're still active spirits interacting with us. And sometimes, it just happens. We're out there looking for Bigfoots, and you come across one of these things, and you get Bigfoot activity sometimes, or you get weird things happen with them. Anyway, I was with on a couple of different trips in this one area in north central Tennessee, which I can't give out because we have an NDA on it. But we're in this cemetery a month or so ago. It was 4 of us. And we were doing some Bigfoot research because we know they're on this mountain and around there. And we had 2 recorders going, headlamps, parabolic mics, that sort of thing. And I had put some motion sensors in the cemetery. Well, the motion sensors start kicking on and off. 2 of the recorders go dead. The batteries go out completely. And one of the headlamps goes dead. So we jigger, get the lights on, get everything reset, change batteries, get back active with it. And I had been playing some harmonica because we had heard a couple of knocks, and we had heard this kind of whoop whistle type sound from the woods. And we kind of thought there was Bigfoot activity, but it wasn't close to us. It was in the distance. But I was doing things to attract some attention, and we're talking, if you're out there, please let us know, come around. Because I think Bigfoots understand intent. So I'm standing on one side of we had a truck park facing this old hillbilly cemetery. I had a parabolic going, and I'm scanning about 90 degrees from straight in front of me to the right, and another investigator with me is doing the same thing on the other side. And I hear, I'm listening, and I hear, hey, Rick. And so I said to the other investigator, it was, I'll call him Joe. Joe, what is it? What do you want? And I take my headset off, and I go, Joe, what is it you want? And he turns and looks at me, and he says, quiet, I'm getting voices out of the cemetery, and they just said your name.
Whoa. That's crazy.
So, awesome.
So maybe you can help me with that, because I haven't figured that one out yet.
Yeah. Well, is this the place you frequent a lot?
It's the 3rd time I've been there.
Okay.
Now,
so,
I'll make the story better. I was back there this past weekend, and I was with one other person that had been with me, 2 new people, and we were setting motion sensor LEDs on top of gravestones and around inside this cemetery. I literally had conversations with them. So you know how they'll do the flashlight thing where you keep the flashlight head loose and they go on and off. We were doing this with these motion sensor lights, which must not draw a lot of energy to be active, but we were setting them on different ones. We were debunking it, swapping them around, talking to them. Turn the one on the left, bang, the one on the left. Turn the one on the right, they turn it on. Turn them off. I'm going to play harmonica for you. Don't turn them on. I'd play harmonica for 2 minutes, nothing. As soon as I'd stop, they'd go off, or they'd turn on again. So, I mean, complete interaction for half hour, 45 minutes, back and forth, in the same spot. So, enlighten me a little bit.
So, I'll give you an example. I used to go to this place a lot. It's a Middleborough Town Hall. Who hasn't been there in Massachusetts? But very friendly with the government there, and they would allow me in to investigate. I've been there, God, I don't know. I've been doing paranormal research for 7 years. I've been there 6 times, and it got to the point that the spirits would know who I am because I would introduce myself every time.
Yeah.
So the last time I went, if I can remember correctly, we would go around the room. My whole team and I would introduce ourselves, be respectful. Hi, my name is Cindy. Hi, my name is Ryan. Hi, my name is Aaron. I would turn around and go, hi, my name is, in the spirit box would go, John. They do know who you are. Just like when you meet people in the street and you introduce yourself, and that guy, you see that guy or that girl 2 weeks later. Hey, Rick. Hey, how's everything? So that's my thought process.
That's just
behind it.
that means that you're dealing with something that's intelligent.
Yeah, very intelligent. That would be an intelligent thing.
The funny thing is, we were at a hillbilly cemetery last weekend, and we had gone the weekend previous as well, and we were there using our spirit box, and I had introduced myself. We were at a certain grave, and it just says my name with a southern accent.
Sandy.
It said Sandy.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I was like, are you kidding?
Wow.
So
yeah.
Yeah, I think if you frequent an area
They get
a
to know
lot,
you.
they get to know who you are. We've been there, a baker's dozen, for crying out loud?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they like us there. In fact, we have this guy who comes through all the time named Frank.
Yeah.
And he likes to say hello to us and speak to us. And actually, I heard audibly this man standing behind John.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what he said.
I heard it, but I don't know what
I heard him,
Yeah,
not through the
disembodied voice.
box, not through anything, but his voice actually behind John. It was interesting.
Wow.
So, I mean, and
Wow.
the weird thing is, when we were out the other night,
Nothing.
and we were doing her cryptid investigating, and the rocks had been thrown and everything. We go back and listen because we've recorded it on the parabolic.
Boo.
And we hear a little kid say, boo. So, go figure. You can't pick what you're doing.
We weren't going after ghosts at that point.
No, but you can't pick it. You can't say, I'm only doing this or I'm only doing this. You can't go out and say, I'm only investigating Bigfoot and not Dogman.
Right.
Because you don't know what you're dealing with.
Don't
so,
know.
yeah.
No, you don't.
So,
No, you
I mean,
don't. And when we're limited to our 5 senses, and
Right.
I think there's abilities that these things have. Bigfoots have abilities to do other things. You mentioned the uneasy feeling or the infrasound type of thing, but there are things that go on with these creatures when you're around them that don't fit into our 5 senses, the box
Right.
that we have around that. So,
Right.
so then we say, it can't be, and we call it paranormal. Paranormal only means it's outside of the realm of science and normal. So, if you're open-minded about it, I've had other interactions with ghost type things over the years, and so I have respect for that. I know there's residual haunt and something that's an active, intelligent haunt. And it seemed like in this cemetery I was in, that was active because we could go back and forth. And they were triggering those lights, just at will.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the other thing too. These lights that I was using, it's actually a pretty good technique. I haven't seen them use it anywhere on TV, but if you get pretty good, sophisticated, small LED motion sensor lights, and again, the energy must not need a lot of energy to kick them on and off because they were working these things. But they're all programmed when you get these at the factory. Like they kick on within, say, 3 feet or 9 feet. That there's a radius that they'll kick on, and they stay on for a programmed amount of time. That's it. The experience I had with these things, they were kicking them on and off like a strobe light, and then other times they'd have them light up and they'd be on for half a minute.
That's
that
crazy.
Doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't. Yeah.
And that seems like something
It's
that would be
crazy.
very easy it's very user-friendly and easy for them to manipulate, which is genius because it's not so complicated.
Well,
Right.
And if I'm not mistaken, this is me just being a techie. They probably have a passive infrared sensor in them, which would detect heat or cold, not so much motion. So,
Sure.
essentially, it's detecting motion, but it's picking up your heat.
So it's detecting
cold.
the energy that these things are manipulating.
Yes.
And in fact, we actually used our what were we using?
I don't
we
know.
were getting it to move. It was moving. The temperature gauge on it was, remember?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
The thermometer was
the
moving
EMF meter
on the
has
EMF
a
meter. Yeah, because we were
thermometer
asking
on
it to go up and hold at a certain area.
And it would hold.
And it would hold.
And then it would get tired.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It happened. I mean, we had
That's
it the
cool.
other day when we were getting all this going on. We had it. It was dead on. It was amazing to watch. So it's this whole, the whole cryptid and paranormal thing. You really can't separate it, honestly. I mean, it's totally different, but you
Right.
can have it all happen at one time.
So,
Yeah, well, it's fascinating you said that. So the first of the two stories I told a month or so ago, I pulled out my EMF detector. I had two of them, and one of them had temperature gauge on. I gave it to another guy that was there investigating with me, and he and I went up to these gravestones in the front that we were getting some activity on, and I had the EMF thing was just. I had one was a VU meter, the other was digital, and they were like doing nothing, and one of them shot up to over 5. Bang,
Wow.
very
Wow.
fast. Just spiked right up, and it held it for a few seconds and dropped right off, and the temperature dropped almost 3 degrees immediately. Boom.
Wow.
I just
that's a good
just watched
swing.
it. Yeah, and I mean, and we couldn't reproduce it. We couldn't get it to do it again anywhere outside of that. I the motion sensor things. We went back to the campsite later. I put them out in the woods all around. Nothing.
Nothing, yeah.
So no, zero. So I always got to debunk and stay healthy skeptic. And
You have to.
Yeah, some of this stuff happens. It's just incredible. But that's cool what you said about getting them to maintain and hold temperature. I'll try that.
Yeah, it wasn't a very long hold, maybe 3 seconds.
Yeah.
It would hold it,
then
maybe
go
4
back.
seconds, and then it would swing. It would swing all over the place, but when we asked it, it was almost an immediate response.
And it would hold. It was.
Yeah, it would hold.
I think something like that is a great technique because, again, it's something that is simple. And you can clearly tell that if it's at a baseline and it's been that way for 10, 15, 20 minutes and then it starts to swing upon, command, there's something going on. So I thought that was pretty interesting. We had fun that night. That was, I don't know. It's great. Just doing stuff like that it's amazing.
It's fun, yeah. It's not hurting anybody. It's not threatening. When you get experiences, it opens your mind. And technology is getting better and better, so it allows you to pick up other things. I can't tell you how many times I've used recorders when I've been out bigfooting, and then you listen to them later and you go, God, I didn't hear that when I was there, and now I hear it.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
We've had that happen, absolutely. Yeah. So, how do you feel about if as far as Sasquatch having, more abilities? I don't want to say that sounds so like a superhero.
Do you think they're bulletproof? I mean, seriously, think about it.
Well, I mean, they're big.
Well, I don't
think
listen,
they're bulletproof so much.
I ain't shooting one of them.
No,
because you're just going to piss it off.
But what, we talk about the third eye, things like that.
Yes.
And there are also vast reports of them actually communicating via telepathy, like putting, words in people's heads. People can hear them, in their head. Do you think that you could sort of condition yourself if you really kind of studied this and worked on it to be able to do this? Do you think that maybe they could pick this up if you're willing to communicate with them telepathically?
Well, so if I'll give you an answer, and if any of your listeners out there will say, well, this guy's whacked and nuts, and he's on the woo side of things. And
nah.
You're in the same club I am, buddy.
So I will tell you from experience, I have had the telepathic experience, mind speak, whatever you want to call it. I have had that experience with them. So on more than one occasion. So I there's something to it. Now, do I have a concrete evidence, physical way of saying this is what that is and it's scientifically proven and we know what it is? No, but I have experienced that. When it comes to evidence in these things, there's physical evidence out there, lots of it to do with Bigfoot. So whether it's footprint casts, there's, 10, 20,000 of those things out there.
Right.
There's video, there's photos, recordings of the sounds and the noises they make, stick structures out in the woods that you can see. people report, and I've experienced that too many times, the odor, it'll hit you like a terrible smell that they can almost use it and throw it at you if they want to deflect you. So, they make nests in the woods. People find those things, hair samples. There's a lot of physical evidence. But then there's a lot of weird stuff on the other side too, that people talk about mind speak or telepathy, see lights in the woods when you're around these things. We talked about getting zapped. Orbs floating around in the woods of different colors. I'm here to tell you, I've seen it. There's a tie into UFOs with these things.
Right.
I did Stan Gordon. I did a podcast with him earlier. He's in Pennsylvania, and he's been doing this for 30 or 40 years. He could tell you one after another stories of UFOs and Bigfoots together, and that he's investigated. So there's a lot of that going on. Out there too. I know MUFON people in Tennessee that are active with this, and they contacted us just to talk about, hey, we're out trying to investigate UFO sightings, and people are bringing up Bigfoot encounters that go along with it. How is it? How can that be? So I don't have an answer for all that. All of this, though, whether it's physical or on the woo side, it all constitutes, evidence. We shouldn't be saying, oh, no, it can't be. And there's a dismissive mindset for people that do research for a long period of time, especially if they come from the scientific side of things. I think, it's all evidence. I like Tom Powell. So if you guys ever read any of his books, Tom Powell wrote
Yes.
called Edges of Science.
Yes, absolutely.
I think his stuff's fantastic. And I've seen him speak, met him, and talked with him a few times. But he'll say you got to stay open-minded. This is all, it gets reported back. And it corroborates. So you get multiple reports of different geographies and different time frames. And it's the same thing, but we can't explain it. So it's just pile it up, put it in the evidence pile. And so to answer your question, John, before, I do think they have different abilities. I do think they can mind speak if they want to, or telepathically. I think they have an ability to telepathically connect with us, but I think they do it with themselves all the time, and that's useful, so therefore they can do something with us. I actually think they have a common mindset, like they collectively can tap into one big Bigfoot central computer and communicate with each other over distances. It would help keep them stealth, so why not? They can throw smell. There's no question they can do that. The zapping or the infrasound, which immobilizes you, that's pretty freaky, and I don't know how they do that. Defunctioning electronics. I can't tell you how many times I've had things go out when I've been around these things, and things that have just been charged up, new batteries put in, dead.
Yeah, we have that issue too.
You talk about mimicry and how they mimic things. These things are uncanny in how they can do it, whether it's animals, people, machines. They can do it. There's people that say that, cloaking they'll talk about. And the people who use the Predator reference say, hey, I was looking at it, and then it was like it shifted, the light changed, and it was gone. How could I be looking at it and it's gone? But witnesses report this sort of thing all the time. Hunters report it. I saw it. I put it in my scope. There, it was there, then it was gone. People report time loss when they're around these things.
We've had that happen.
We actually had that happen.
Yep. When you were bigfooting or
yes.
around spirits? Yeah,
no,
okay.
we were, and we actually heard at the time that we did this, we heard this weird metallic sound come out of a tree. It was the oddest thing, and we were in the middle of nowhere. And just last weekend when we had the rocks thrown, I did see.
You know why he laughs, right?
The light. I did see a light up on the mountain, and he was like, "It's a star," and I'm like, "That is too low to be a star." I knew what I was looking at. So,
yep.
the smell being thrown. I've had that happen.
Yep.
I've had a lot of these things happen. You can tell when they're around.
Yes, you can.
You can definitely tell, and it's. To me, it's fascinating, and sometimes to him, it's scary. But that's okay.
No.
It is. Well, it's scary only because we don't have a common understanding of it. We as human beings, we see something or hear something, and it's pattern recognition or it's historical reference. So we go right to that, and if we can't do that, how can that be? And then we tell somebody later, hey, I saw something, and it wasn't starshine coming over the top of the hill. It was lower down the hill. It was like a white orb, and it moved.
Yes.
I watched it move left to right, and it descended down the hill, and I saw it for a minute and a half, and people go, that's impossible. How can that be? But they do that sort of thing. Those things occur around these.
Oh, it's definitely what I saw. Yeah.
Yep, I don't doubt you one bit.
So
I've seen it. Okay, so we're
good. That's awesome. So do you think that, this is kind of a dicey part of this to, encroach on, but do you think that any of these beings could be responsible for possibly people disappearing?
Yeah, so that's
I know.
I don't know.
Ouch.
I'm not going to say no because no is the wrong answer. I can't say yes because that's the wrong answer and you can't confirm it. Do I think the government may know that? Sure. I think they would know something about that. It's funny. I was looking at my 411 map of the United States today, believe it or not. So that's a
I have that.
The more you spend time researching Bigfoot, the more coincidences happen to you too. So
exactly,
that doesn't surprise me. That's today's good one. So I don't know. I know when I talked to David Polides about this, but he doesn't say Bigfoot right away.
No.
But he doesn't discount other things that people bring up in a lecture. People will say, is it portals? Is it this? And he's like, well, we don't know what a portal is, but I can't say no, it isn't either. And he's had reports of people that felt like they stepped through something and then were pulled back, or something was trying to pull them through from one realm to another one. So there are witness reports of those types of things. You read his books, you read those things are in there.
Yeah, definitely.
But is it Bigfoot behavior to be curious about kids? Maybe pick up a kid, transport a kid 1,000 feet up a mountain and leave? I don't know. I don't know. Is it Bigfoot behavior to maybe take out a disruptive hunter that was taking pot shots at one of their kids somewhere in the wood? Maybe. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. Do they have the ability? Could they pull it off? Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
They could pull it off all day long. I don't think you got a chance around these things. If they wanted to take care of it, you're good. You're done. Which is more a reason when you're out in the woods to be polite and respectful, like the Native Americans always said. And I think that's the best philosophy.
Yes.
But could they do it? To answer your question, Cindy, could they do what you're saying? They could do it, no problem.
Absolutely. That was my thought too. And it's something I think a lot of people don't like to talk about. But it's something you kind of have to consider with everything else, because you have to have a healthy respect for this, field and what you're doing and going, and when you're researching and out there, you're vulnerable. As you said in the beginning, you have to make yourself vulnerable. That's part of it. And if you're willing to do this, and sometimes they get onto me, they're like, you don't have like a safety filter on you. Like, you're willing to go out and do this stuff. And they're like, no way. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to do that. But, and John kind of pulls me back a little bit sometimes, like you got to think a little bit, what if, like, what if? But you really do have to make yourself vulnerable in order to get the research done and to be able to do what you're aiming to do and to reach your goal. So you have to have a healthy respect for it at the same time, though. So,
well, if you were around them, like you guys talked about some scenarios where you heard knocks or rocks were tossed and you're around them, I would never challenge them when something like that happens, but I would talk to them. I think they understand intent, and if you talk in a nice voice, use some Sasquatch language, you can, if you do what they did back a little bit, they initiated the knock, do a knock type of sound back.
Right.
If you hear a whoop, do a whoop back or whistle back. Get a dialogue at the same level they're doing it. You can do that. It can be fun if they feel like playing, but we can't put and ascribe behavior to all of them that's the same. I think there's good ones and there's bad ones.
Right.
Just like people.
Agreed.
I mean, I've been bull rushed and chased out of the forest. I've had rocks thrown at me. I've had massive trees pushed down behind me, scared the hell out of me. I've been in situations where they didn't want me there, and in most cases I was in the wrong place. But I don't do a lot of Sasquatch research by myself anymore. I pretty make sure I go with people, and I don't go around, even if I am by myself, I'm not running around the woods being disruptive trying to antagonize these things. So I don't know that everything in 411 is something that you could say is Bigfoot related. There's an awful lot of weird things going on, a lot of people that have disappeared in clusters.
Absolutely.
Bigfoot could be a part of it. And I guess to anybody listening, act with respect when you're in the woods to anything in nature, any animals, Bigfoot if you're around them in particular. But you get back what you give.
So
I agree.
It's funny that you said there are good ones and there are bad ones.
Mm-hmm.
So her and I, Cindy, went to this one area again for paranormal stuff. It's kind of crazy. So we walk all the way out there. Like, I don't know, who wants to walk around the woods at 11 o'clock at night?
I do.
Me. Right. So don't I.
Yes.
But we were on the way out. We go to this one certain area. We do our little thing. So I start listening through a voice recorder. As I'm recording at the same time, I can listen. And I said, nope, I can hear something walking around. So, again, I normally don't get spooked real easy, but I got spooked. So she's like, all right. I'm like, I think we should back off and just slowly ease our way out of here. She's like, all right, so let's go. So we're talking. We're going down the path.
Yeah, and I'm feeling fine.
Yeah.
He's kind of
every time it's always me. Every single time.
I'm totally fine. I'm like, yeah, this is cool.
So I start as we get out of the area. That feeling of dread and shit, we should get the hell out of here is now gone. So we start walking. We're talking about the night, kind of debriefing each other. We get to this one certain area over a creek, a man-made bridge over a creek, and we must have stopped for a second. And all of a sudden, I heard the most guttural growl I have ever heard. It wasn't a bear. It wasn't a coyote. It wasn't a bobcat. It wasn't a cougar. It was nothing I ever heard before.
No, it was big and deep, and we felt it. It wasn't.
Noped. She was gone.
No, I got the overwhelming urge. The fight or flight kicked in immediately, and I'm like, we cannot be here.
So the sound, I could actually feel the sound hit me in the side of the head. And I was like, wait a minute, what was that? Typical white guy, It's like, what is that?
And he's like, let's find it. I'm like, no.
And I got my infrared camera out. I'm looking all over the place. I can't see it. And infrared is just not penetrating the dark.
And I'm gone.
She's taken off.
I'm gone.
I got both my ankles are bad at the time. And I'm like, wait, babe, slow down.
He's like,
She's
don't
like, no.
run.
I'm like, listen, you can't. You got to take it easy going out of here. Don't. Just relax.
I was not running. I was walking quickly.
You were speed walking.
That's right.
So she just about dragged me all the way to the car. And Rick, when I tell you they're not nice down there, they're not nice.
Whatever that wasn't nice.
And I'll tell you why.
Right.
So we left some gifts out there. Okay, I didn't know. I didn't know what to get him, so I got him a Snickers bar, a real big Snickers bar, and I left it in this one area.
He's hangry.
So I would go back and check it constantly. Well, then it started to be once a week. I go back and check it, and then it was once a month. So this was probably about a month after that happened. I went back. I was by myself. She had taken a nap. I was bored out of my tree, and I'm like, well, I got about an hour left of daylight. Let's go. So I go. I throw in a backpack with just some, emergency stuff in it, just in case. Walk out 2 miles, get to this area. I walked out as fast as I could, and I was fine because I knew I had very little daylight left. I get there. Nope. It's been a month. He still hasn't touched it yet. Turn around. I walk out. Dude, here comes that feeling again.
Yep.
A rock hit my foot, and then as I looked up, I could have sworn. Now, it was just starting to get dark. I had a headlamp on. It could have been a shadow, but something crossed the path.
Yep.
I stopped, and I was like, nope. I got to go. Well, you can't go the other way because that's a 5-mile hike to come back to right where I want to be. I didn't want to cross it. I really didn't. I mean, this was 10 feet out in front of me. I didn't want to cross it, but I had to. So I kind of did the brave thing, and I unbuttoned my fixed blade knife just in case it was a bear or something. I mean, what was I going to do? So I just said, head down, walk nice and easy, and just go. So that's what I did. So when I got up to the top of the hill, I looked down the path to my right because it kind of forks off. I didn't see anything. But, man, when I got back to the car and I sat back in the car, I was like, I don't know what that was, but man, it was big. I couldn't hear it, but I saw the shadow quick. You know, it was one of those, it was in my peripheral, but when I looked up, it was gone. It was just, I won't go back to this one area by myself or with her, just the two of us.
Right.
I won't do it.
Which, you know, it's interesting what we do, though. Even after having all these, you know, you have the experiences and you still want to get out there, you know?
Right.
That never goes away, no matter what happens, that drive.
Well, things happen that, you know, aren't easily explained. You have experiences that add on to, you know, your research over time. You learn more about this. It's mind expanding. And that's, I think, some of the attraction of it. But if you're in an area where you're getting bad feelings or there's bad entities around, you know, don't play with fire. I'm not wanting to go back to that. Now, if it's Bigfoot and they don't want you in that area, maybe you're trespassing, or fine. It could be that, or it could be something else out there. You know, I've had reports of Bigfoot behavior that's not great. I've had reports and talked to people. I've had descriptions of Bigfoot that don't sound like other descriptions, and I know you guys have done shows on Dogman and that sort of thing. So I took one report of a Dogman entity from a guy who runs an insurance business. I mean, salt of the earth, you know, stoic type individual, and he had a perfect description of what he saw. So I think there's more to it out in the woods, you know, than just a bunch of happy Bigfoots waiting for you to come on in and, you know, let's sit around the fire. And, you know, so you got to be careful when you're out there at all times.
Yeah.
So, you know, travel, it's not good to be one either, John. I think you got to go out with
Agreed.
More than one. You need a buddy system at least.
Well,
and
going out there at this place at this time was heavily traveled. That's the only reason why I went out by myself, and where I was going was mere 10 yards off the main trail.
Yeah, I mean, it's during the day. There's
during
foot
the
traffic,
day, yeah.
But it's funny that you do mention that, because I feel like that we were not messing with, because we weren't, but I think that we encountered something more along the lines of a dogman. Honestly, I do.
Yeah, maybe.
I really, because it did nothing about it fit the MO
right.
of a Sasquatch.
Right.
And I was actually at that very moment talking about Dogman.
Yeah. So that brings me
yeah,
to a
it was really
question.
weird.
That brings me to a question for you, Rick. I don't know how diverse in Dogman you are, but what are your thoughts about Dogman and Sasquatch? You know, is there like a holy war between the two, or you know, what is the deal? Do they fight? I mean, or is it they just one stays away from the other one?
Fascinating. So I don't know. I mean, you know, there's a lot of. So you get a lot of Dogman reports in certain geographies.
Yeah.
Michigan and Wisconsin have a lot of them.
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
Tennessee has some down this way. You guys have done shows and talked about them, that sort of thing. Linda Godfrey, I know her. If you ever talk to her, or, you know, read her books, she does a lot of research on it.
I've read her books for sure.
Yeah, Linda's great. She speaks at shows and things, and you know, she's a little bitty thing, but she broke the whole Beast of Bray Road thing back in the '90s. And,
oh yes,
she's got a lot of experience. She'll say that the Bigfoots. She'll say, I know which counties they're in Michigan or Wisconsin, and the Bigfoots are on this side of the tracks, and Dogmen are on that side. She'll say that they not go to war, but they have their own respective territories.
Right.
Okay.
She'll tell me things like that. I have nothing to dispute it. I can't say one way or the other if any of that. But I've had that discussion, John. So, you know, I don't know. People report Dogman type entities. Scott Carpenter over in Tennessee writes a lot of books. He's a great guy, and he's had some experiences, got some photo type of stuff. You know, he does a lot of camera work, and that, you know, and looks like if there is a Dogman, it looks sort of like that. I don't know. I think there's something else out there that's. Is it a Bigfoot derivative? I don't know. I think there's a few different types of Bigfoot in the country and in North America, but I'm not sure this is a Bigfoot entity. But whatever entity or whatever type of thing this is, I'll sum it up by saying this: anybody I've ever talked to that's been around them has had a negative encounter.
I agree. With all the research I've done and the people I've spoken to, it's never really. a good experience with dogmen or a good outcome as
Never
far
ends
as
well.
how they're left to feel afterward, because there seems to be a lasting effect when you have an encounter with these things, and it's very negative. It psychologically messes with you, and there are nightmares afterward. You feel sick sometimes. There's a lot of odd things that go along with it. So, and I know there were reports actually where we went today. There is a report that's probably 8 or 9 years old out in that area of an encounter that's frightening with a dog man. So, I mean, but you can't, again, if you're going to go out and do this research, you can't pick and choose. You can't say, oh, I'm researching Sasquatch today. I'm not going to research dogman, so I'm not going to encounter you, because you just don't ever know. And
no, you don't. Yeah, it's like fishing. You go fishing for, bass and catch catfish. You just don't know. But it's the dogman thing is negative, and it's funny you say. Well, it's not funny. You would say there's a lasting effect. If you're in a situation where you think that's a possibility around something like that, I think you just got to get out of there.
Agreed. I agree 100%. And I think that any of the reports that I have researched and people I've spoken to on the dogman in particular, it has been like, get out and leave. And people say, well, you don't know, like there are no reports of them killing anybody. But how do we know? I mean, how do we know? Because if the person isn't here, you have the story up in the LBL of the family in the 80s who went up to camp. You're familiar with that. That sounds more like something that would be dogman MO than it would Sasquatch. But it was definitely something, and it's not a cougar. It was not a bear. That was bad, and we don't know what did it. So, I don't know. Maybe the beast of the LBL is a dogman.
I don't know.
So
it's weird.
There's a group of beasts in the LBL. There's a lot
there
of crazy
absolutely,
stuff happens in the LBL.
Could be.
Absolutely.
So we're coming up to the end of the show there, Rick. So why don't you give people your contact information, if you would like, how they can contact you if they have any encounters, need to talk to you about this, so on and so forth. How would they get a hold of you?
Sure. So a good way, I can give you an email that I use just for this type of stuff, so it's not my personal, but I have an email that's RRR, 3 capital R's, whoop, WHOOP, at gmail.com. And you say, where did I come up with it? RRR, whoop. Well, it's a noise I heard from Bigfoots in the woods at one point.
Cool.
So, I heard him once growl and turn it into a whoop, so I used it. But rrrwhoop at gmail.com. And if anybody wants to drop me a note, I'd be glad to. I'll respond and talk about any of that kind of thing.
Awesome.
And then, like I said, we'll be at these different shows through the course of the year with merchandise and talking. So next one I think is Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Festival. That's in Gatlinburg, and that's end of July 26th, I think.
Nice.
We'll that's a great show. If you guys, that's huge. They had thousands of people at that last.
Not far from us. Well, if you'll send us the information to all the shows you're going to do here in the near future, we'll actually post that on our page as well.
You'll have a Yankee.
I'll do that.
You'll have a Yankee boy and a Southern girl coming up to you and, hey Rick,
you'll know us when you see us.
So,
well, if we're going to have to get out in the woods one of these days,
I would love to.
Listen,
George and do
Oh yeah,
I'd love to, because we're of like minds.
That'd be great.
If you're ever down this way, a team of yours is down this way, we have no problem being tour guides for them to get them to where they need to go. We know the area pretty well, and we know where we've had some experiences. So, and I'm sure they do too. I'm sure they know most of the areas. So, that would be great. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I've got a few spots I want to clue you in on as well that are pretty interesting.
Yeah, I might be able to return the favor. I got a number of friends I do some Bigfooting with that come out of the Atlanta area that are in North Georgia almost every weekend. So I'll probably be able to. We could get a group of us together and talk through some of that.
That'd be great.
That'd be great.
That'd be great.
So unless anybody has anything else, I think we should call it a night and go Sasquatch hunting.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's time.
I'm with you.
That's it.
I think after all this talk, we just might have to go out.
Yeah, we will. This has been wonderful, Rick. Thank you so much for being on the show. It's been great.
I know it was last minute, Rick, but I really, really do appreciate you coming on.
Well, I enjoyed being on, and I appreciate your open minds being able to talk about all these subjects, and hope your listeners got a lot out of it. And let's do it again in the future.
That
Awesome.
sounds great.
Can't wait. All right, everybody. Have a good night, and we will see you in a week or two.
And just remember, absence of proof is not proof of absence.
Have a good night.
Good night.